What I have today is a Echo PB-200 two-stroke leaf blower that somebody left sitting by the side of the road. I guess they got frustrated with it, stopped running or whatever, and didn't want to fuss with it, and decided to just leave it out for somebody to take or for the trash to pick up. But it's got a motor on it, so automatically I'm interested to see if I can get it going. So at first looks, I mean, it's pretty dirty. It's not missing any parts. This end is a little bit chewed up, but it does have this other little attachment that was sitting right next to it. So I brought it home. Figured I'd see if I can get it going. At first glance, everything seems to be there. It did have some old gas in it, which I dumped into one of my cans. But I mean, as far as all the lines go, they're not cracked or dry rotted or anything like that. It's got the pull start. It's got tight compression. Carburetor seems to be intact. All the springs are good. So I'm going to see if I can get this thing running. See what's wrong with it. Alright, so after putting some fresh gas in it, I went to prime it, and the first thing I noticed, I'm going to bring it a little bit closer. So right under here is the primer bulb, and it's got a crack in it. It's actually seems to be split right in half. I don't know if you can see that, but when I push it, it just splits. So this thing's never gonna prime with that bulb being split like that. This is required to actually suck fuel up from the tank and prime the carburetor, get fuel in there so it can start and continue to run. So that's definitely gonna have to be replaced. But what I can do just to see if it'll run is maybe put a little bit of fuel. Maybe put a little bit of fuel in the carburetor and see if it'll at least fire before I go spending any money on parts. It looks like, as long as that bolt is, that's probably the bolts that actually hold the carburetor to the engine. So what I'm going to do, rather than take them both out and have the carburetor fall off, I just want to move this out of the way so I can get a little bit of fuel in there. Alright, so obviously the tricky part's going to be getting fuel into that little carburetor opening there. So what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of 2-cycle premixed fuel into this cup here. And what I did was I just kind of pinched off the cup to make a point so I can just put a little bit. Alright, I've got some fuel in there. Let's activate the choke. And let's see if this thing starts. It starts right up. That's awesome. Okay, now that we know it runs, I'm going to go ahead and replace this primer bulb. Now, I went to my local Ace Hardware and was able to find this primer bulb, and it was right around $4 for this Echo model PB-200. From what I looked at online, it takes the CIU model carburetor, so hopefully this will fit it. I'm going to open the package a little cleanly, just in case I got to take it back. I don't want to completely mutilate it and then I can't accept it back if I have to exchange it for a different one. Alright, let's get that guy out of there. Okay. So to change this, it's actually pretty easy. Just gonna take this and move it out of the way for right now. That way you guys can see what I'm doing. So these are pretty straightforward to change. You've really only got 2 screws. And they're Phillips, but they also have a longer slot, so you can stick a flathead in there. For these, I tend to use a flathead just because if they're torqued down really good and they're Phillips, it might just turn on you. But you can see, having one of the carburetor screws out of place actually allows me to rotate the carburetor without completely taking it off, so that does come in handy. I'll go ahead and remove these 2 screws. Alright. So now I've got the entire primer assembly off. This would be a diaphragm. You don't necessarily want to mess with this unless you know for a fact this is bad. Usually there's like a split somewhere right in here, but this one looks to be in good shape, so I'm just gonna wipe away the little bit of dirt that was there, and we're gonna go ahead and reuse that. So the only thing I really want to tackle right now is this primer bulb. So that just comes off in one piece like that. And then the rubber primer will pop out. So you're just left with this retainer. So I'm going to go ahead and pop the new one in. And we'll screw that back together. Alright, I'm ready to put that back on the carburetor. There's a couple of alignment pins here and here that you just got to make sure line up with the holes. And then I'll put the screws back in it. go ahead and get this carburetor line back up. Get this screw back in. So I'll move this bracket back to its original location. Alright, now let's see if she primes. Well, let's see. Well, there you have it. $4 and a couple minutes of my time. I got a good running leaf blower. Let's see if I can put that other attachment on, because this thing looks terrible. It's kind of weird. Yeah, that's better. They had the discharge put on sideways. Let's give that a shot. really have any leaves to blow, but you get the idea. Interesting side note regarding my plastic cup idea. Apparently, gasoline melts that plastic. So maybe I wouldn't recommend doing that. Yeah, don't do that. But if you have a small container that you can put gas in, maybe something glass or metal, it's probably better because you don't want that happening.